Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1193A, and today's date is February 1st, 2017, and the title of the episode is, The U.S. Economy Flashed Another Major Warning Sign of a Depression. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Well, today it looks like the European Central Bank, the EU, they're in trouble. And the reason for this is that in the UK Parliament, they voted 498 to 114 to authorize Prime Minister Theresa May to trigger Article 50 and begin the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union. And we can see that the central bank, they're very worried about this because they know eventually what's going to happen is that other countries are going to follow and the central bank is doomed. And this is why Draghi was out there saying, listen, if you want to leave, you have to pay up your debts first. And we can see that they're going to be pushing this agenda with other countries to try to hold everything together. And what we're seeing throughout the European Union is that things are deteriorating rapidly. If we look in Italy right now, we see things are rapidly deteriorating, especially for the youth individuals. The youth unemployment is now 40% plus. Which means the next generation, they're not earning funds. They're not saving their funds. They're not purchasing retail. They're not purchasing homes. They're not contributing to the next generation, which means the country's doomed. Because if your younger individuals are not working and saving and spending, the country has nowhere to go. And we can see right now that this is exactly what is happening in Italy. And it's not just Italy. There are many other countries that have the same problem. Greece is one of them. France is another. And it's spreading. Spain is another country. It is spreading throughout the European Union. Now, I know they came out with their unemployment figures and they said, oh, it dropped to 9.5%. But you have to remember, the EU is using the same exact tricks that the United States does. Those individuals who are no longer looking, they don't count them. The central banks and these governments, these non-elected bodies, they all do the same thing. They manipulate the numbers to make it look better than it really is. Now, here in the United States, ADP came out with their report, and they're saying, it's unbelievable. We just added 246,000 private sector jobs in January. This is the most since June. Now, January normally is a down month. Coming off the holiday season, a lot of the part-time sales, well, part-time workers, they completely disappear. They get laid off because the holiday season is over. You know, midway through January, this usually happens. We see corporations redoing their budgets. They're not spending as much. And normally hiring, well, it's not very popular in January. But all of a sudden, we're seeing small firms, medium firms, they're adding individuals. Now, are they caught up in this whole thing that all these jobs are coming back to the United States? And once again, these jobs coming back to the United States, well, it hasn't happened yet. Manufacturing, well, it hasn't happened yet. It was all talk. It's still talk. I know it's only, 11, 12 days since Trump has been in office. But again, the economy has not changed. Actually, it has changed. Things are getting worse by the day. More stores are closing. Housing is declining. Things are rapidly deteriorating very, very quickly. The only thing that's doing well is the stock market, which is still completely manipulated with the plunge protection team, the high-frequency traders, the free money coming from the central bank. Remember, Trump is still not in charge. The central banks, the deep state, they are in charge. They are controlling everything that's going on. The only thing that Trump is doing right now is reversing pretty much everything that Obama did through executive orders. Obama created all these executive orders, and Trump is just reversing everything he did. So Trump hasn't really gone after the central bank. He hasn't really gone after the elite. He hasn't made any of those type of moves. So right now, they don't care all these little type of executive orders that he's doing. It's meaningless to them. and they're still in charge. But what we are seeing is that the Affordable Care Act, well, that did have a negative effect on jobs, because a manufacturing CEO told lawmakers on Wednesday that costs imposed by the Affordable Care Act negatively impacted his company to the ability to hire new workers, make capital investments, and develop new products. Joe Eddy, president and CEO of Eagle Manufacturing, he was testifying before the House Committee of Education and the Workforce on behalf of the National Association of Manufacturers, and he's saying, and this represents about 12 million Americans, saying yes, because of the Affordable Care Act, they were not hiring individuals because the costs continually moved up. And what he was saying is that before the Affordable Care Act, he paid for health insurance for his employees. In 2009, he paid about $13,500 per employee for health insurance. And he said, today, it's $22,800 per employee, an increase of $9,300. And because of taxes, paperwork, fees, mandates, this put a huge burden on his company. This is why he wasn't hiring more people. This is why he was keeping the number of people very low, because it was very difficult to pay for the insurance. Now, other companies where they have lower cost employees, the burden came off the corporations and went on to each individual where they got subsidized. But the middle management, where they're making, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, well, they were caught up and they had to pay Obamacare for themselves, which was very high to do. And a lot of the companies were saying, okay, we'll go in halvesies with you to help you out. But we can see right now that those companies that completely pay fully for their employee benefits, well, this was a huge problem for them. Now we're seeing mortgage applications, well, they're declining. We had a little pop-up of gains, but now they declined by 3.2% from a week earlier. And this is coming from the Mortgage Bankers Association weekly mortgage application survey. And what we're seeing right now is that the total applications decreased to 12.1% from 13.6% the week prior. And it completely imploded on itself. And while the mortgage applications are declining, of course we see, according to Kay Schiller, housing prices are increasing, but if you look outside those 20 cities, you don't see the same exact story. But we also see U.S. construction activity, well, it completely declined in December. We see it dipped by 0.2% in December. And the reason for this is because there was a drop in government projects. So government projects increased U.S. construction activity. Another illusion. It wasn't the private sector. It wasn't these builders who were building homes. It was the government once again, just like the government comes in and purchases vehicles. They have the ability to manipulate it very easily. Now we're seeing the U.S. economy, it is flashing another major warning sign that a depression is coming. Now yesterday we talked about the Chicago PMI, which came in at 50.3. A 50 equals stagnation and the beginning of a recession going into a depression. We're already in a recession. We're heading towards a depression. Now the PMI in of itself is bad news, but new orders component, that came in at 49.1. And this is well deep into recession territory, heading into a depression. Now let's add the worst part, price paid. What manufacturers are having to pay for the items scored a 61.4. So you've got growth collapsing and prices soaring. This is stagflation. Now, stocks are acting like everything is fantastic, everything is great, but the real data is showing us a depression is coming. It's already upon us, coupled with higher inflation. 2016 GDP growth was the worst since 2011, while inflation expectations have shot higher. Now, those individuals who believe that GDP is going to grow by 5% this year and then next year, well, you can see at this point this is not going to happen. The IMF, the US have been saying this for years and years and years that have gone by since 2008, where they say we were going to hit 3.5%. And throughout Obama's term, not even close, not even anywhere close. And we know the numbers that they're reporting, they have been completely manipulated. The reason why GDP mostly is going up is Obamacare. The premiums are rising so quickly that it pushes GDP up because spending is a huge part of GDP here in the United States. And it's not because people are spending in retail. So we can see if we strip all that out, GDP is at negative 0.1, negative 0.2%. So how in the world are we going to hit 5% this year? It's ridiculous. Now, the IMF came out with a new study, and they're looking at the EU countries. And what they're saying is that the EU countries, well, they're running into excessive deficits, distorted budgets, and poor compliance with financial rules in the single currency area. And the working paper is called Fiscal Politics in the Euro Area, and it analyzes data from 19 different countries that participated in the Eurozone from 1999 to 2015. This is what it reveals. Public debt to GDP ratio of the Euro area as a whole increased from an average of less than 60% of GDP in the early 90s to more than 90% in 2015. According to the EU Statistical Service Eurostat, the new debt is more than 50% higher than the maximum allowed level of 60%, determined by the Stability and Growth Pact. And that was a set of rules designed to make sure that the EU members pursued sound public financing. But if they did do this, the entire system would implode on itself. So they had to create illusionary numbers. They had to print currency or create currency. They had to buy up corporate debt. They had to borrow more currency, fake the economic numbers, and this is what we have today. It is a complete nightmare. And we can see throughout the private Western central banks, everything is contracting and moving into the center. And there's no way out of this except, defaulting and saying, okay, we're just writing off all this debt. We just can't do it anymore. Otherwise, trying to continue with this model, it's going to be a complete disaster. Now, the Fed is out there and they do not see a March rate hike. Very surprised about this. They weren't going to do it this soon. They always tell you they're going to do it 3-4 times per year. Last year they did the same thing and they came up with one. And we can see right now they know the economy is not doing as well as they're saying. This is why they haven't done the rate hike just yet, because Trump has only been in office, 11, 12 days or so. So they can't say, because of all his policies, we raised the interest rate and the economy fell apart, we have to blame Trump. It wouldn't work because he hasn't even done anything yet. Yes, he talked a lot. He talked to corporations, but nothing has been done as of yet. The economy is worse than ever. The only thing that people are looking at to think that the economy is good is the stock market. But if you look at all the corporate revenue, the earnings, and everything else, it's a disaster. So the stock market doesn't even make sense. That's completely manipulated. We're heading into a major implosion of the economy. And it's going to hit. And we're hearing more and more financial pundits out there saying, yes, we see it coming this year. There's no way around it. And the illusion has lasted long enough. And this is why you need to get prepared with food, water, supplies. Because as we said, when inflation comes, you want to make sure that you already have the food so you don't have to worry about going and spending $50, $60 on a loaf of bread. This is why you need to be prepared and ready for what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.